This allegedly true horror story was sent to us by Reddit user Lady Larking. Enjoy. I grew up outside of a relatively small town in Texas, and more importantly, in a haunted house. Well, to be more accurate, on haunted land, and I'd like to tell a few stories as well as my own experiences. Now, a little background which gives some context to why I say land instead of just house. My childhood home sat about 100 yards, or a football field, off of the Colorado River, on about 100 acres of land technically owned by the city. It's a public city park that lays outside the boundaries of the city. Yeah, it's that kind of arse-backwards place, notwithstanding all the other political rubbish you'd expect out of a small southern town. Anyway, back to the actual important information. My father is the live-in park ranger for this city. It's not a bad gig, all things considered, though in my opinion he could be paid more for being maintenance and authority figure that's on call 24 hours a day, 365 a year. This means if someone gets locked out, if a camping site loses power, or has problems, or there is a conflict, someone is knocking at our door no matter the hour. It's always been this way since I was about 7 years old, and I'm now 29. He's a tough old man, almost 55 years old, and not all that inclined to share spooky stories of things he's seen and been told. Though he does believe in ghosts, he'll try and find the rational explanation for why things happen before he caves and admits it was a ghost, even if me and my mother know damn well what it is. Now, I give this background because it's important to note that when things go wrong, he's usually the first person on the scene. This includes the time we had some jet skis explode while a father and daughter were riding them. They were fine, thank goodness. Or when some alligators rolled up on the campsite. Or personal disagreements, people trying to be sneaky and not pay by showing up after dark, people doing illegal substances or trying to get freaky in the backseat in the rough camping part of the park. And of course, being right on the river. Drownings. For some reason, people love to drink and swim. And someone drowns about every 3 years minimum. We're actually due for another drowning. Following the pattern, I don't hope people drown, but the memory of the last ones don't seem to stick as long as they should. Anyway, Dad is usually the first on the scene, either to try and help the people or to direct the ambulance and police and eventually search for the bodies. Most appear after a day. One took 3 days. Mum said that's the only time she's ever seen Dad truly disturbed. It's not a fun part of the job, and Dad dreads summer and spring when people start coming out and acting stupid. Please, please do not drink and swim, and if your kid isn't a strong swimmer, even if they are, please put a flotation of some kind on them if you're swimming in a river or lake, for your sake and everyone else's. So, people drown, sad as it is. That being said, these drownings have led to several spirits that hang around. Our most popular one to be reported is the first man my father helped try and find a body for. He was wearing a white shirt, blue jeans, and was a friendly man by nature. Now, I need you to know, I've only seen him once myself after his passing. My mother and my father have both seen him multiple times, and many campers have seen him. One gentleman, who likes to fish, was out late, close to midnight, returned to his car alone as he'd been all day. He gets his gear and gets himself in, and goes to buckle up after starting his car, only to see the smiling figure of a man in the white shirt and jeans in the passenger seat. He leapt out, and when he turned around, saw no one was in his car. It's been almost 5 years, and this fisher no longer comes out by himself if he's staying after dark. Other campers have reported seeing a man sitting at a table, white shirt and jeans, who will see them and raise his hand as if to wave to them. People will go to wave back until they realise no one is there. My mother used to work early morning shifts, 3 a.m. to 2 p.m, and she'd see him standing outside the office on her way to work from time to time. My own experience with him is simple, but spooky. I was sitting in the office with a friend one night talking, about 10:30. My parents now live above the office after Hurricane Harvey. Anyway, we were sitting there, and I see out the window over my friend's shoulder a figure walk by the window, like it was going to walk through the double glass doors of the office. Now, I live in a park, meant for camping and visiting. However, it's important to note that the park was A, closed due to our sewer system getting redone, and B, it was in the middle of the week and most people don't show up then. It was the man in the white shirt and jeans, and I knew he was coming to buy something from the office. I was spooked, who wouldn't be? And my friend and I retreated upstairs rapidly. He's never been threatening, and I'm sort of glad the flood didn't take him away. However, even with him on the land, there are worse things that are here. My childhood home, which I must admit I'm sort of still grieving and grateful I cannot live in again, was destroyed by Hurricane Harvey. It had 2 feet of water in it and emotionally devastated our family. There is something that still lives in that husk now used for storage, and I hate it. Growing up, my bedroom was used during the day by myself, and never at night. When I was little, I often had night terrors that had me shrieking for my mother and sleeping on the couch instead. She told me that I often said, "She has no face," when I was asked why I was crying at night. By the time I was 9, the couch in the living room was my bed, and my bedroom just had a cheap futon. The feeling of being watched, of something standing behind you, was and is overwhelming. I hated it. Even when I slept in the living room, I had to have the door to that room shut, as well as the one next to it. The feeling of being stared at was so strong. We had a door to the garage at one end of the living room and one doorway to the kitchen. The garage door was open during the day and there was no tangible door to the kitchen. What I saw in these parts of the house I can't say were human-like, but they at least wanted to be seen as it. They felt wrong, very wrong. Have you ever seen someone walk quickly by an open door? My mother and we think my father, but he'll deny it, saw these tall figures blur by, mostly dark but occasionally pale. I hate seeing them. I always had this awful sense of dread and anxiety, a fear they'd not walk by the doorway and walk into the room I was in. I think they did, more than once. I used to walk in circles in our living room while on the phone with my now platonic partner. As I'd walk by the couch, I'd feel as if something brushed against or wrapped around my ankle, and it always terrified me. I was always scared to look behind me, all under the couch, even as a grown woman of 20-something. I hated those things, those moments. They liked to touch my hair and ankles as I tried to sleep, and I'd say it might have been sleep paralysis, except it was only ever after I closed my eyes initially, and falling asleep was an hours-long trial. Mum often experienced seeing them, and hates them too. Since Dad is on call 24/7, there are times he has to go out at night, much to our anxiety. We'd often hear the front door open and shut, or hear his voice and call out to see what had happened or what was wrong. About half the time, he wasn't even home, and for a time we'd write it off as we'd just heard things, until the dogs started responding to it too. We used to have a lab mastiff mix, who would growl at any time this happened and move closer to my mum like he was defending her. I've seen things dart under curtains or beneath sinks, found drawers open and things knocked over, and things opened that had screw tops or push-in tops that no one had touched in months. One time, a mounted deer head from my grandfather came off its hook and cracked me in the head. The nail in it was unbent and undamaged, but it hurt, I assure you. Anyway, more recently, during my current visit home, Mum says that when she goes over to the house, or what used to be our house, she doesn't like going inside anymore. She says that when she takes the dogs out at night for bathroom breaks, she doesn't look in the dark windows, even if her instincts are telling her to. She's scared that if she does, something will be looking back at her, or feels like something is looking back at her when she does. I have these same feelings, and sometimes when I'm on doggy duty, the feeling that something is peeking over the 7-foot fence. This post is long, but I'd like to finish it by saying that our new home above the office is much more peaceful. Something opened the locked bathroom door the other night while I was visiting my parents, and an entire shelf popped off its rack in the cabinets a few weeks before that. Strange things still happen, but I'll be honest to say I'm glad it's nothing like the old home. These aren't the only moments I've had, which range from hearing muffled conversations for hours in the childhood home in the dead of night when everyone else was asleep, to hearing it again at my friend's house for months and months. I've also experienced things at high school where I teach, so I'm not sure if it's just me or my life, but I'll never be persuaded the supernatural isn't real. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to support this channel, we have a link in the description for that. Don't forget to give a subscribe, a like, and press the bell to get notifications. Tell us your thoughts in the comments section. You can also send us your real or fictional horror stories.